Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Tim Kidwell Outdoors. As you guys can definitely tell, my boat is a mess. All my stuff is open, and reason for that, I'm actually going to do something this year. Every time I fish a tournament, I'm going to completely strip everything off. The rods, the line off the reels, take them off the rods, and then take all my baits that I use that's wet, take them out and let them air dry, and then put them back in their correct spots. That way I don't have any issues the next time I go to rigging them up. But let's go ahead and get this video started. Today's video is actually going to be a review video on the last tournament down at Welaka, Florida. Okay, so starting off, it was cloudy and it was very, very foggy. It wasn't super cold. I'd say the temperature was about 54 degrees starting out in the morning, and by the time we got off the water it was about 64 degrees, so the temperature did go up. It didn't remain colder. So when we actually started fishing, the water temperature ranged between, I think it was like 57 up to around 70 degrees. It was more 57 when we went to the main lake, but it was actually going back into the spring. I'd say it was about, I don't know, between 64 and 70 degrees. And we were fishing Salt Run, where actually we ran into Rick Clun down there, so that was pretty cool.
Are you Rick Clun? Well, nice to meet you, Rick Clun. Tim Kidwell. Nice to meet you, sir.
So some things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. This is a completely different video. I've never done a video like this, but I want to actually go over some things that I did wrong in this tournament and how I can overcome them and learn from my mistakes. So starting off, I was pretty much throwing everything that I could. I was throwing a chatterbait, I was throwing a topwater, a lipless crankbait, spinnerbait, a worm, and then we started flipping later on in the day. But as far as the main thing that you guys saw in that video was that Dinsmore Outdoors was catching them left and right. And here's why I wasn't. The fish were actually wanting to bite something that was just a little bit different. Even though we were throwing the same exact bait, it was a tiny, tiny little thing that actually made a difference. So I started comparing my rod, reel, line, and bait setup versus his. So he was throwing a more medium heavy action rod, and his reel was a 6/8 to 1, and I believe he was throwing 15 pound test fluorocarbon. The other thing was, I'll go over that in a minute, is the bait. What I was throwing it on was a 7/3 heavy fast action rod, and I was throwing it on 17 pound test fluorocarbon, and I was using a 7/5 to 1 reel. The reason why I was using a 7/3 heavy is because, I don't know if you guys seen my past videos with Bubba Outdoors. We're actually fishing back in a deep creek, and I actually was catching pretty decent sized fish, 4.5 pounders and 5 pounders, using that exact same setup, except I was using braid. And the water clarity didn't change from back then to what it is now. However, the setup did actually make a difference. I guess since it was a little bit colder, the fish actually wanted to bite something that wasn't going super fast that a 7/5 to 1 reel would produce versus a 6/8 to 1. So that right there was a big difference, was definitely the reel. And then the line setup didn't really make too much of a difference.
Got a fish. Coming to you. Yes! Finally caught my first bass on the Terminators.
When you saw me catch that fish, what I ended up doing was I took off my reel and I put it on a 7/1 medium heavy rod. That's my multi-purpose rod. I usually use it for my worms. I swapped over the reel, tied on a shutter bait, and that actually is what I caught that fish on. The color that I was using was this green pumpkin shutter bait, and I was pairing it up with this KVD blade minnow. Alright, same exact color, and it actually got me that 1 bite the whole day. Here's how Dinsmore Outdoors was catching all the fish and I wasn't. So I don't actually have the exact bait with me, however I have something similar. This is the Z-Man Razor Shad. It's a different material, but he was using this, and the main difference is that the tail was dipped. That little chartreuse tail actually made the big difference. Just a little bit of chartreuse. I mean, I was throwing different types of chatterbaits. I was throwing spinner baits with a little bit of chartreuse just to try and mimic something similar to that. And he didn't have any more chartreuse dip or any more trailers. So unfortunately, I was crap out of luck, and all I had to do was just kept using different things that I had actually brought to the tournament, and none of them produced other than the shutter bait and the KVD bait. So when I went up to the front of the boat, while he was in the back, he still caught that fish.
Yep. Do we have enough room back there together? Or? Yep. Bring him up this way. Got him. Don't fall in.
That'll work.
That will work right there.
So things that I would have done differently, I would have figured out that maybe basing my past fish catches on a current situation is just a bad idea. Definitely use a little bit more, I wouldn't say parabolic, but I would say a less stiffer rod, a more fast tip rod. My 7.3 heavy is more 20% bendy, and then the other 80% is just complete backbone. So I switched to the medium heavy, which is about 50-50. Definitely has that backbone to bring it in, but that 50% bend definitely allowed the hook to set in its mouth and remain in that fish's mouth. Alright guys, I want to go ahead and say thank y'all so much for subscribing to the channel if you have. If you are not subscribed, definitely hit that subscribe button. I want to thank every single one of you guys for watching this video. If you haven't yet, go check out the tournament video. And I will see you guys in the very next episode of Tim Kidwell Outdoors for Lake Rodman. See y'all.